So here we are at Best Supporting Actor, and the nominees are Robert Duvall as Judge Joseph Palmer in The Judge, Ethan Hawke as Mason Evans Sr. in Boyhood, Edward Norton as Mike Shiner in Birdman, Mark Ruffalo as Dave Schultz in Foxcatcher, and J.K. Simmons as Terrence Fletcher in Whiplash. Now, I actually really like this list we have here. I think these five nominees are all extremely strong in their performances. Although for me, there is like a clear winner here. It's not like a tight race or anything. But yeah, this is the list we have. So in terms of who I think should have won the Oscar, at fifth place, I'm going to put Robert Duvall. And I have a lot of respect for Robert Duvall. Like that's kind of what happens when you play Tom Hagen in The Godfather. But just because I put him at number five here doesn't mean I think his performance is weak. I think it's actually very strong. I thought he was very good in The Judge. Because his performance, he's more than just a crotchety old man in the movie. Because deep down you can really tell there's a lot of pain and deep regret in his character that's kind of hidden away when outwardly he just kind of shows his snarkiness and his attitude. But you can really see this depth of character, especially in the scenes where Duvall is playing sickly. And these scenes are really heartbreaking, but they're not manipulative. They're played very realistically, like how you would see senior people going through sickness. And what I like so much also about his performance is that he never really embraces Robert Downey Jr.'s character, his son. Like he never like just outright tells him like, "Oh, I love you" or anything. But you can feel it just like really subtly that he does have affection for his son, even if he can't really show it. And I really like that kind of nuance. But the reason why he's at number five here for me is that for me, film really is a collaborative art. So I will admit, honestly, even if it's not very objective of me, that the quality of the film itself does kind of affect my perception of Duvall's performance, even just a tiny bit. And I don't really think The Judge is a very good movie at all. But I still do think he did a very good job. At fourth place, I'm going to put Mark Ruffalo. And honestly speaking, I didn't even recognize Mark Ruffalo when he walked on screen in this movie, and that says a lot about how I think about the other nominees here because I thought he was excellent in Foxcatcher. Just the way he changed his voice and his physicality, like he was walking around kind of like a gorilla, because his character here is a wrestler, but it kind of made him seem like a gentle giant because he was walking around like that, but his voice is kind of slightly higher pitched, and it was really interesting to see that. And I think his character really is defined also by his relationships with the other two central characters here. Like, his relationship with Channing Tatum's character is very tender, yet it's very strict as well. And the way he views Steve Carell's character, like he's always suspicious of him, and this suspicion grows throughout the movie. But he never ever becomes like totally hostile towards John DuPont. And for me, like the best scene in Foxcatcher is with Dave Schultz in the center, because there's a scene where Dave really can't bring himself to call DuPont a mentor on camera, and the way he delivers those lines is just so honest, and so like awkward, but in the best way. And like really watching someone unable to tell a lie. At third place, I'm going to put Ethan Hawke. And the great thing about Ethan Hawke in Boyhood is that he manages to transform his character of Mason Sr. from someone almost like Jesse from the Before trilogy into someone who's truly kind of wizened and more low key. But the way he does it is very gradual. It's not like every year that passes there's like a sudden shift. Like you can really see the development of his character, like just inch by inch as the years go by, and it's really difficult to do that. And for me, Ethan Hawke has also mastered how to deliver naturalistic dialogue because of his frequent collaborations with Richard Linklater. So whenever he delivers his dialogue, you just can't help but pay attention to him. And when he says something that comes off like a proverb or some sort of morality thing, it doesn't come off as preachy or anything. It just feels like he's talking, and it's really hard to pull that off. And for me, the fact that Ethan Hawke and the rest of the Boyhood cast had to go back to character every single year, but gradually mature every time, for me is a feat in itself, really. At second place, I'm going to put Edward Norton. And Edward Norton, I think, it's really cool how he plays kind of a version of himself in the movie because he has a reputation for being kind of a diva or kind of like a stuck-up kind of movie star on set. It's great for him to be able to be open to doing this. He manages to balance being both really funny in his arrogance with being really kind of despicable in his attempts to be like funny and cool. And the way Norton switches from acting to acting like he's acting in the movie is really awesome because he plays an actor in the movie, So whenever Mike goes on stage and begins to act like theater act, you can tell he's acting for the theater, but it still feels like he's in character, which is really really tough to pull off. And he's even believable when he's drunk acting, which is what he does in one movie, in one scene. It's a very physical performance. Also, there's a lot of bravado, but there's a lot of depth also. And it's really Edward Norton's strength here is like his ability to balance also. And he really balances his condescending tone with the respect he has for Regan deep down and the sincerity he shares with Sam, Regan's daughter. It's really a case of like these different relationships defining his character. And at first place, of course, who else would it be? J.K. Simmons. Come on. I mean, every single time J.K. Simmons is on screen in Whiplash, he just absolutely dominates it. Like he commands your attention, and every single word out of his mouth is delivered with just the perfect like pinpoint acidity. Like every time he opens his mouth, you pay attention. You really, really do. And it's not just in what he says. Also, it's like every single move he makes in the movie, especially while he's conducting, like just perfectly matches with his character. Like just the way he does that. It just feels so right with his character. It feels so solid, but it feels kind of threatening at the same time. And what's great is that he also challenges the perception of the audience because while you're watching him at first, you might think his lines are funny, but then later on they're really really terrifying also. And he messes with the audience because he messes with Miles Teller's character so much. And you eventually don't know whether or not you can trust this guy. While I was watching with my audience when I first watched Whiplash, we were laughing at first with the stuff he was saying, but by the ending, we just didn't want to be anywhere near him. In terms of who I think was going to win the Oscar, I really went to J.K. Simmons, and of course he won. I mean, who else was going to win this, really? So those are my thoughts on the Best Supporting Actor category for the Oscars. Who do you think should have won? What do you think about J.K. Simmons winning? Whatever you thought, whether you agree with me or not, please leave me a comment. Let's have a conversation.